It was early morning, February 24th, 1989. 20 minutes after takeoff, a cargo door tore from the plane. The captain and crew defied the odds by bringing the crippled Boeing 747 back to Honolulu. 9 people had vanished through the gaping hole in the jet's starboard side. Lee Campbell was among them.
Immediately, we just knew, you just feel it, that something terribly, terribly has gone wrong.
The National Transportation Safety Board issued its aircraft accident report on June 26, 1990. The conclusion? That the accident was caused by the sudden opening of the improperly latched forward lower lobe cargo door.
No, it didn't happen. It didn't happen.
Brian Kitaoka was sure the door wasn't improperly latched because he's the guy who latched it.
Tried being accused of being the cause of 9 people's death and hundreds of people's traumatic event, being accused, being blamed. It's a heavy burden to carry.
The Campbells weren't buying the NTSB's explanation of what happened. They suspected some sort of electrical problem. And needing to know why their son died and wanting to prevent it from happening again, they did their own investigation. A search across America chronicled by National Geographic.
We started at Seattle, across to Chicago, through to Washington, D.C.
2 key events helped them prove their case. First, they swiped a stack of government documents when they were left unattended after an NTSB hearing.
Was that stuff valuable?
It was incredibly valuable. It had everything, everybody's deposition notes, all the facts, all the letters that had gone out from Boeing to the airlines, all kinds of things that we wouldn't have got otherwise.
Then, in the fall of 1990, 2 pieces of the door were recovered from the ocean floor. The latches were still in the locked position. Brian Kitaoka had secured them properly. Finally, in March of 1992, the NTSB issued a new report. The conclusion this time, the accident was caused by a faulty switch or wiring in the door control system.
Vindication. That's all I can say is vindication.
The Campbells will never get their son Lee back, but their tireless work likely prevented similar accidents from happening. And after finally meeting Kitaoka for the first time, they've got a new, very grateful friend.
Unless they pushed it and unless they forced the people to recognize that this is a problem, it wouldn't have changed.
I'm Brooks Baer for Hawaii News Now.
In the news report, it states that the NTSB had changed their finding in 1992. Problem with that was nobody told me. Neither did the airlines, the FAA, the NTSB. Nobody told me that they changed their findings. So as far as I understood, it was still my fault. So I carried on with life. At that time, I was involved in getting my pilot's license in helicopters, so I poured all my energies into that. And in 2000, I started my own company. Oh, thank you. It was called Genesis Aviation, and we're a helicopter company. We provided aerial footage for KHNL. At that time, we were called Chopper 8. So, I poured all my energies into that. And 2007, 2007, during one of my physical exams, doctors noticed a little abnormal blip in my EKG. They told me that I had 3 of my heart arteries were better than 85% blocked, which meant that he said that if I had a heart attack, I probably wouldn't have survived. So I had to go through surgery. They had diagnosed it and said that maybe stents would help open up the blood flow. During the procedure, they discovered that stents was not going to help because they couldn't get the stents in there. The blockage was so bad. So he said I'd have to go through a triple bypass, open heart surgery. So I went through the open heart surgery. I remember laying on a table before the surgery and watching the anesthesiologist inject the anesthesia into me before the surgery. And I remember saying a prayer. I said, God, do your will, but please, I ask if you can just help me survive this and carry on so I can provide for my family. Okay, and that's the last thing I remember. I woke up and I made it through the surgery. Just day before I was supposed to be released from the hospital, doing one of my blood tests, the doctors discovered that I had my blood platelets. Platelets are things in your blood that is responsible for clotting your blood whenever you have a cut or anything like that. My platelet count had dropped so low that they held me back. You see, a normal healthy person has platelet counts anywhere from 100,000 to 350,000. Mine was down to 13,000 and dropping. And you know, I always say that being the victim or the patient doing these things are the easy part. The hard part is the relatives or the family that have to hear the stories from the doctors, because they're the ones that have to deal with the possibilities. You know, doctors had told Debbie that they weren't sure what was causing it, and they weren't sure if I was going to be able to survive. You know, they said that they might lose me. So they had recommended a procedure known as plasmapheresis, which is similar like dialysis. They input new platelets into my system, and hopefully my body will retain it. And that started to work, so I had to stay on a machine similar like dialysis for 5 hours a day for the next 5 days, as my platelet count started going up and up. Needless to say, excuse me. Boy, it's actually coming true. I played a joke on a pastor when he came in. I told him I had laryngitis, I couldn't do my speak. Now it's coming true. But anyway, when I started doing the plasmapheresis, but doctors had called Debbie in and says, you know, we're not really sure what's going on, but we want to try this procedure in the hopes that maybe my platelet count will rise. Later on, they diagnosed it as TTP, which is a condition that kills off all your platelets, and you know, it was a very rare blood disease. In the last 25 years, only 3 people were diagnosed with having this condition. 2 out of 3 died. You know, so it was very serious. And you know, Debbie had to listen to this. You know, but me, I'm in La La Land. You know, I'm laying on my back, nice air-conditioned room. You know, I'm just telling her I want to go home, and she goes, no, not yet, not yet. So anyway, you know, she always gave me these scriptures to stand on. When I went through my triple bypass, it was from Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future. You will seek me with all your heart, you will find me, and I will bring you back from place of exile. You know, and I stood on that prayers, and I kept repeating it over and over again, because now I had lost my career as a pilot. Okay, my medical certificate was yanked. I couldn't fly anymore. I remember sitting in the living room on a couch looking at the Help One ads, you know. What was I qualified for? Oh, look, security guard, warehouse driver. You know, because really, technically, I was only trained to be a helicopter pilot, nothing else. You know, one door closes, another shall open. A phone call rings. You know, it's my good friend who I haven't heard from, my best friend, who I haven't heard for at least 5 years. And he tells me, hey, would you be interested in, you know, managing a company? I said, oh, what do I have to do? He says, oh, not much. All you have to do is just order parts. I said, oh, great. You know, I can do that. So I went, interviewed for the job. They gave me the job. It was a New York-based company, so they flew me up to New York. And I actually got, another interview, and they gave me an orientation. And slowly by slowly, I realized it was just a little bit more than just ordering parts. You know, it's basically was going to be running a company with 33 people located statewide, taking care of all the passenger jet bridges at all the airports. You know, doing the maintenance, and it was a state contract. It was a $3 million a year contract. You know, so the thoughts of, you know, just ordering parts kept going through my head, you know. I remember meeting with the CFO, Chief Financial Officer, and he's showing me the contract. It was a 300-page contract, and he told me that I needed to complete a spreadsheet, which was Greek to me, And I looked at it, and it required me putting over 30 inputs every month so they could get a cost analysis of the company. Ever had that feeling where it's like you just bit off more than you could chew? Well, times that by 10, and that's how I felt after I came back and I was in my living room at 2 in the morning trying to figure out what is what and what is what. And I kept thinking, Jeremiah 29:11. I kept saying it over and over again. I remember being close to tears on the floor at 2 in the morning. Just help me understand this, I have common sense, help me. And all of a sudden, it's like a light switch came on. I started being able to apply everything, and proud to say that now we're in our 5th year of the contract. Yeah. Praise God. Debbie also provided this passage for me. It's Proverbs 3:5. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not unto your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your path straight. And I kept saying that, and everything has come true, and I've made it through. And you think, after going through all that would be the end of my story, but it's not. Doctors had told me that AME, which is a medical doctor for the FAA, had said to me there was a good possibility I could actually get my license back, my medical back, because I didn't have a heart attack. I had a triple bypass, but not a heart attack. So I said, oh, really? He said, yes. So I had 3 stents implanted into my heart to increase the blood flow on one of my bypass arteries. And I started working out. I had it on a treadmill, 1 hour a day. And I was doing really good. I did the FAA exam, and doctor said, oh, it looks good. You're on your way. One night, while on the treadmill, I started developing this terrible headache. Terrible headache. And so bad that I just knew something was wrong. I told Debbie, I says, you have to take me to the hospital. I don't feel good. Come to find out, I was having a brain hemorrhage. Yes, and this brain hemorrhage put me in a coma for 4 days. Doctors had called Debbie and Suni and they said, spend time with me because they didn't think I was going to make it. Well, I made it. Yeah, amen. I stayed in Queens ICU for 3 weeks, and then I had to spend 4 weeks in the Core-Kidney Rehab Center. Okay, I had to relearn everything. When I left Core-Kidney Rehab, I was still in a wheelchair. I couldn't walk, and again, thoughts of, how am I going to provide for my wife, my daughter. My daughter was going to college. What's going to happen now? All these things kept going through my head. And Debbie, again, she wrote this passage and kept it taped behind my bed, above my head. And she put my name in it. It says, Brian. It comes from Isaiah 41:10-13. Brian, you are my servant. I have chosen you and not rejected you. So do not fear, I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will hold you with my righteous right hand. Those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint. Folks, I kept saying it over and over again. I was released from the rehab hospital in a wheelchair. I couldn't walk, So my therapy's up. I had to endure 5 months of hard therapy at home. I was able to start walking again, and eventually started being able to take up the love of golf again. And, nowadays a lot of people ask me, say, so how well have I recovered from my brain hemorrhage? And I always use my golf game as a gauge for them to decide for themselves, right? And I tell them that nowadays that when I stand on the tee box and I hit the ball as best as I can, I still hit the same houses I did before the hemorrhage. You be the judge. People may ask, how is it that after all we've gone through, that I can be thankful to God? guilt-ridden for 22 years over the deaths of 9 people. See, I had mentioned that nobody had told me about the revised NTSB report. In 2009, for the 20th anniversary of the accident, there was this burning desire for me to get in contact with Kevin and Susan Campbell. So I went on the internet and I got hold of them. And I spoke to the husband, Kevin, first. And Kevin says, "Excuse me, is this Kevin Campbell?" He goes, "Yes." "Is this Kevin Campbell married to Susan Campbell?" And he says, "Yes." "Who is this?" He says, "Oh, you may not know me, but my name is Brian Kitaoka." And he just shouted, he said, "Hold on, I know you." And I could hear him saying, pick up the phone," to his wife. His wife was saying, "Who's that?" It's him, it's Brian." So she picked up the phone and we started talking. Come to find out that they had always wanted to meet me, but the company had not allowed it. They had said that I had moved to San Diego. Okay, that was just in a way to protect me too, because there might have been some family members that may have tried to come and get me, because of the NTSB report. It was during those conversations, and later on we met in 2011, but it was during those conversations that I found out that the NTSB had changed their findings in 1992, So I had carried on the guilt for 23 years, needlessly. But I tell you what, God is good. The truth came out. You have to realize that God played a big part in the truth being told on that. For one thing, they found a door, pieces of a door, 17,000 feet of water, and they're able to recover it. 2, parents, Kevin and Susan Campbell, were a type of people that didn't take the federal report for what it was worth, because they could have been the type of parents that would have said, "Oh, okay, well, that's a professional saying it must be true then, that he didn't close the door well." But they weren't. They wanted to find the truth. And it was the combination of all those things, I believe, in God's hands, that He made them pursue it. And that's how the truth was come to be. But for 22 years, I had the guilt of the deaths of 9 people. I went through a triple bypass. I had a rare blood disease that almost killed me. I lost my career as a pilot and my business due to my health. I suffered a brain hemorrhage. Doctors had called my family in to say goodbye because they said I wasn't going to make it. I was in a coma for 4 days. Doctors were unsure of my mental capacity if I pulled through. I spent 3 weeks in ICU, 4 weeks in a rehab hospital, 5 months of home therapy where I had to learn the basics, things that we take for granted. And you may wonder, how? Well, let me tell you. The truth regarding the true cause of the cargo door opening could have not been discovered, but it was, and I was exonerated and freed from all that guilt. When I had the triple bypass, I could have died. I didn't. When I developed TTP after my heart surgery, I could have died. I didn't. When I had the brain hemorrhage and was in a coma for 4 days, I could have died. I didn't. I could have been left with a hardened heart because of not being able to fly anymore, having lost my childhood memories or things. I didn't. Instead, my heart is filled with gratefulness that God allowed me 18 years to pursue my childhood dream and enjoy and see things that people can't even imagine. I could have suffered brain injuries that would have left me unable to think logically or use common sense. It didn't, although my good friends would argue that point. So are you going through some trials today? Maybe in your marriage, your health, or your career? Seek God. Your darkest times, and He will make for you a way, just as He did for me. Stand on His promise. Do not fear, I am with you. Do not be dismayed, I am your God. I will strengthen you and I will help you. I will uphold you in my righteous right hand. I stand before you as a witness that God is not only good, He is merciful, and most importantly, He is faithful. After 25 years, I get it. I get it. In closing, I would like to share with you a little video that we had made when I was a helicopter pilot, showing you some beautiful scenery of this island as well as other islands. The song that accompanies it is Tiffany, is sung by Tiffany Thurston, and it's called Healer. You know, and when I first heard this song, and not trying to sound like a stalker or anything, but it almost felt as though the song was written for me.